Yo guys, what's up? This is PWY What If Deku. Today, I'm starting a new What If. Because, no one's ever thought about this. Now, this is the O5 Council from the SCPs. Basically, what is known about them is very little. But they're known as Class A personnel, which is like the most important of the most important in the SCP Foundation. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Honestly, they really can do whatever the fuck they want. They have the support of every fucking nation. Well, not every nation, but like the United States, like the top ones. And then, not only that, but they have like unlimited funding. And it's just, this one's gonna be OP as fuck. Due to the simple fact that Deku can do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, quite literally, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. If he kills a villain, he can literally get away with it due to the simple fact that he is, like, one of the most important people. He is going to be the leader / founder of the SCP Foundation, aka he's going to be the leader of the O5. Now, we start this off when Deku is told that he doesn't have a quirk. Now, Deku in this one, Inko will abandon him. Not because he doesn't have a quirk, but because she can't support him. And she would rather abandon him in the forest than let him go back to school and get bullied. Now, she does this, but she gives him food, water, and a fucking hatchet. 'Cause she ain't bad. She ain't bad mother. Like, she best mother. Like, she's doing this for his own good. And she gave him enough water to survive for like 3 months off of. Now, Deku would be wandering in the forest when he sees SCP-001. I know there's a shit ton, but it's when a day breaks. And basically, if you don't know, he can control people. So, and it is highly assumed that the founder of the SCP Foundation got it as a command by him. So, oh yeah, and this one, SCPs are a thing, but they most likely stick and don't really get into that much trouble for the quiet ones, like all that. Oh yeah, and Dr. Bright, he gonna be in this, and he's still an anomaly, and he was alive for like a couple 100 years. And let me say this. In this one, the people who are going into the SCP facilities are going to be SCPs. Now, their powers ain't a fucking quirk. I don't care what anybody says, it's not a fucking quirk. Due to the simple fact that if you watch SCP lore, then you know that basically they have no drawback unless if it's like the peanut, but even then, he's just doing what his creator told him to do. Now, if his creator didn't tell him to do that, then he would be unstoppable, really. But somebody created SCP the Nut. But we're not going to get to that. The only SCPs that I may consider their powers having a drawback is like it's a couple, but like it's very rare. Like Dr. Bright's his drawback is, well, I wouldn't really say immortality is a good thing. It may be fun for like the first couple of 100 years, but then it just becomes a curse. Now, Deku hearing, that's enough. Okay, we go back to the story. Deku is witnessing when a day breaks, and no one else has seen him. Deku's like, "Wow, what's your quirk, mister?" And in this one, Deku doesn't idolize to become a hero. He wants to protect people like a hero, but he would. It's hard to explain. Deku. Well, actually, we're gonna say it like this. Deku has witnessed an SCP attack, and he realized that they don't have quirks. They're completely something different, and heroes can't stop them because they're simply too fucking OP. The only one that might stand a chance for like the lower SCPs and the ones with like barely any powers and like the weaker SCPs is like All Might and Aizawa and maybe like the top 10 heroes. And that's it. Because let me explain why All Might can't one shot a fucking SCP, dude. Any SCP. He can't one shot any SCP unless if it's like something like one of the most weakest SCPs is like something he may be able to one shot. And this is because, dude, they literally have fucking gods as SCPs. Like fucking gods that can end the world and shit like that. So do you honestly expect All Might to be able to one shot something that can destroy a whole entire fucking planet? Exactly. No. Now, let's get back to the story. Deku has... That's just a little quick flashback. So Deku sees when the day breaks, and he tells Deku to prepare. That was his command. Which, let me explain why. It is known, or at least what I've heard of, is that the SCP, he only created it because when a day breaks, told him to prepare. Like literally, without when a day breaks, the SCP Foundation wouldn't be a thing. So really, you should be thanking when a day breaks for creating that shit. But, you know, Zuko prepares, you know? He starts up the SCP Foundation. You know, he gets contracted by the government, by the Japanese, US, basically any country, all the NATO countries. And he is supported by them financially. He has basically like sites and shit And with him being one of the most important members, now he is the leader of the O5 and is the creator of the SCP Foundation. So basically, just discard everything I just said. Well, not what I just said, but like what I said like 2 minutes ago. He is not stabled by any government yet. Now, he starts it up. He hires his first few people. Oh no. He brings the idea to the president and the leaders of NATO. And he showed them proof that it wasn't correct. He showed them anomalies. And after that, they started to support him and sent in specialized soldiers that would act as his protection. Now, no one, not even UA, knows about the SCP Foundation due to the simple fact that the SCP Foundation is one of the most top secret things within the whole entire world. Because heroes are supposed to protect the government. They have no need to know about the SCP Foundation. As a matter of fact, no one does. And as a matter of fact, Deku has spies in UA. Like full ass fucking heroes as spies. Due to the simple fact that it's the fucking SCP Foundation. I would think that they would have fucking spies in there. And Nezu, I'm gonna make it to her. Nezu Aizawa. Who else? Nezu Aizawa. Oh yeah, Inko died by an SCP. But yeah, Nezu Aizawa. Let's see. Who else? Hold up, I'm gonna go think about. And David Shield. And Melissa. Are all a part of the SCP Foundation. And the ship is Melissa X Deku. Because why the fuck not? They have a couple facilities. But basically yeah, they're all a part of the O5 Council. But Deku's like the leader. Oh yeah, and they also say that SCP Foundation, the O5 Council is like class is class A for the SCP, which is like the most important. Not only that, they can grant people fucking ranks to level 5, whatever the fucking level they want. They know everything about the SCP Foundation. And not only that, they have pretty much unlimited influence over anything. Now, Nezu would be the person who would be in charge of like security and shit like that. Due to the simple fact that, it's fucking Nezu. He's the most smartest person. David is in charge of containment cells and inventors for the SCP Foundation, like scientists and shit. Or like, no, he's in charge of the science, like the inventors and stuff. No, actually, no, he's in charge of the scientific field. Aizawa's in charge of training soldiers and is like the fucking general, or like the leader of training slash army, or guard, or whatever the fuck you call them. But like guards and shit. And Melissa's in charge of inventing shit like the stuff that stops reality benders and shit like that. Yeah, she's in charge of building that, and also systems. And you know, cause this is the future. You know, yeah, they already have like 100 sites in Japan, 300 in the United States, and like a couple hundred around the world. Like, not, he has a couple thousand sites around the world with like a couple, like 6, 7 million, like guards and shit like that, and then like 2 to 3 million scientists, and then like a couple thousand site directors. And Izuku, you may be asking, what's his role then? He's the leader and head of the O5, so his is the most important. He must be the figurehead and and not only figurehead, but the one that work all of the SCP Foundation. So his is the most important of them all. And yeah, no one knows what they look like because basically, well, they don't even fucking video call. Nobody in the SCP Foundation, except for a select few, know what the fuck they look like. And it is thought that the O5 has anomalous bodyguards, like quite literally bodyguards that are probably strong as fuck. I'm talking about like probably if they were evil or mean, probably Keter or well not Keter, like Keter or you could class levels of strength, which is fucking insane. Also, Deku will have a weak quirk in this one. It's nothing good, it's just he has a hidden regeneration quirk. Well, actually it's not a quirk. He has an anomaly. He has increased healing and increased time lifetime. Well, actually, no. Yeah, lifetime. He can increase your lifetime by how long he wants. He can increase his. He can boost his healing factors and shit like that. But it's not a quirk. It's an anomaly, which some of the O5 Mantle has. Anomalies like Melissa, she's quirkless, so like she has an anomaly. And I'm gonna say her anomaly basically allows it to where she gets like she can like fucking she has a quirk that boost or an anomaly that would boost other people's anomalies around her. Like she can like lower it down to a certain level, or she can like lend like put like a certain boost on them for as long as she wants, but it's nothing past 12 hours. But her and Deku has no holdbacks on their powers. And basically, yeah, the ship is Melissa. And basically,
Deku's working up, and he's only 10. He's the leader of the fucking SCP Foundation, and Melissa is 12, so she's 2 years older than him. I don't know how old Melissa was. I don't know if she was the same age as Izuku or not. But like, I'm just gonna say if she's older than him, she's around. She's only 2 years older than him, instead of anywhere past how old she was. And if she ain't older than him and the same age, then she's the same age as him. But basically, Melissa sent Deku for the first time, cause like Nezu found out, Izawa found out, and David and Melissa were working for him. They were one of his first employees, so that's why they're a part of the O5 command, because he knew them since he was like 6 or 7. But UA's a high school, obviously. Well, actually, no, it's a college. They meet when they're 15, and that's when the SCP Foundation really started taking off. Actually, yeah, when they're 15. And Deku and Melissa, 15, about 16, are constantly flirting with each other and shit like that. Well, actually, no. That's what I said. David Shield, he abandoned his daughter, and Deku and Melissa met when he was 14, started the SCP Foundation, and he liked her, and she was the first ever person slash scientist that he had. And Nezu, well, it's fucking Nezu, but basically, just Melissa gets David and her thing, but yeah, but basically, they're just flirting at the age of 15 to 16. And then Deku just asked her out. She said yes, of course. And then they just died dating in secret. And Dr. Bright is a part of this. And Deku has like two anomalous guards protecting him and shit like that. But yeah. I think that's where I'm going to end it off, is when they kiss her, like, yeah. So Deku and Melissa go out on their first date. They go and eat. They have a good time. And then Deku meets Kirishima. Yeah, Kirishima. Because Kirishima's a real one. He meets Kirishima, but they become friends real quick because, like, Kirishima has that personality. And, yeah. And, Melissa gets back home with the Deku. And they live hundreds of miles away from a facility, because they're not allowed to get that close to any dangerous anomalies. Well, none at all, but they're the fucking O5 Council. What the fuck you gonna do? They're the most powerful, but yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna end it off. So, they kiss on their date. Deku and Kirishima become friends. And yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it off. And Kirishima saw him going into like a fucking SUV, like one of those armored FBI looking ass SUVs, armored, fucking can take anything. And two SCPs behind and two in front. of like fucking people that look like Secret Service members, but more trained, more buffed, more carrying like assault rifles and shit like that. And he's like, what the hell? But yeah, that's where I'm gonna end it off. Goodbye. It's PWI Deku. Please like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.